Hello, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to Ray's TV. Okay, interesting week for me this week. We've just begun a new 17-day reconnection experience with a group of new members into Ray's. So I didn't know, well, I didn't know because we've done 5 days or 4.5 days already. And yeah, I didn't know any of these people. However, they were all brought to us. Some of them have been watching the Ray's TV films, and that's how they came in. And every week I've made a commitment to do these films because Spirit use these films because it's a YouTube and it's freely out there. Spirit are really good at they call it hijacking. Chris calls it hijacking the algorithms, and they can place these videos and films into the playlist of exactly who needs to be watching them. And several people, in fact quite a few of the people in this time around, this group, have come through these YouTube films, so I'm going to keep doing them every week. So yeah, we've had an interesting week, which I want to share with you one aspect of it, because it's been so obvious to myself. It's actually been shown to me multiple times this week, the signs, and also it's coming up for people in the group. And that is the divine masculine and the divine feminine. When they are in union beautifully, like Chris and myself, I've just been told. It's a beautiful thing to behold, and it's an enriching and nourishing thing for everybody around us, when you have the divine masculine and divine feminine in union. So I need to explain myself. Okay, so I'm Hannah Velten, and my brother Chris is in Spirit, and we've been on it's nearly 20 years, going to be 20 years next February 2023. We've been on this healing journey for almost 20 years, beginning really when Chris went missing in Africa, in West Africa in 2003. And we've been on this huge healing journey, not only healing but transformation, spiritual awakening, rebirthing, essentially. And we now work together to show that, yeah, the physical death is it's not an illusion. Death is an illusion. So the physical death of a person, of a human, and an animal, all of us beings, the physical death is just the falling away of the skin, of the soul, of the spirit, and that spirit and soul continues, life after death, and a rebirth from the physical being into the energetic being. Yeah, so divine feminine is all. So I've got three. So every time I do a film with Spirit, Chris and I create every day. We co-create, not usually some days, but every day. That's kind of our commitment to each other, that we co-create, we're connected, and yeah, we bring through the love and the light and help other people and support other people who, if you're watching this, you might be feeling like you're in the darkness, and we are the beacon. And in fact, everybody in Ray's, our online community, we're bringing through and supporting members who come through who want to join us in these reconnection experiences. And we're basically building up our base and our community of light workers, of healers, of rebirthers, and everybody in the physical brings their spirit team with them, and their loved ones, and we help that reconnection and that building up and rebirthing in both realms. Chris was, I should explain here, Chris was earthbound, so he had died, but his physical body had died, but he had drowned unconscious. So he didn't realize in his sort of soul spirit that he was actually dead. And of course, it was at the hands of some others. So he was like, his earthly links were still so strong. He had he was, you know, he'd had his adventure cut short. He was doing I think a 5 months solo expedition. It got cut short. Yeah, it was at the hands of others. We in the physical, like his family, there was absolutely no trace of him. He completely disappeared, all his belongings, everything, after multiple searches. So there was all these lost things. And you might notice I'm known as the finder of lost things. That was a label that was given to me from Spirit before I found Chris. Yeah, that's so I completely lost my track there. This sometimes happens. I've got messages coming up on my phone from the Raise group, so I got distracted from that. But yeah, so he was earthbound, with so many of these lost things, and so much that needed to be explained. And my journey and Chris's journey have been in parallel, as I searched for him in the physical, and there was absolutely no trace of him. I went in 2016, so 13 years after he went missing. I went on the internet, onto Facebook, did a search on Facebook, and still absolutely no trace of him. So yeah, it was all I've still lost my train of thought. Bear with me as I get back into it. I need to turn off my. This is a behind the scenes. And you might also hear crashing about above me, because upstairs everyone's watching the World Cup game that's on this morning. The kids have got an inset day from school, so they're at home. Puppies are running around. So if you hear lots of strange things, don't worry. This is the behind the scenes of the day-to-day life in, well, my day-to-day life with Chris. Co-creating. Yes, so we're gonna park that where I was, and go back to the divine masculine and divine feminine. So divine feminine, a union of the two is ideal within ourselves. So within one body, like you sitting here watching this film, like to have the divine masculine and divine feminine in balance. This is something within the reconnections experiences that is absolutely fundamental before being able to support your loved ones in spirit, and before like truly being able to go on your healing journey. Finding the balance is absolutely priority. So divine feminine is intuition, it's inner knowing, it's flowing with the seasons, noticing the seasons, it's receiving from your senses and from your third eye. So like dreams, the anything to do with sort of like the moon, it's all the things maybe that the sixth sense, it's all the things that are in the world that we live in now, that I'm saying the world that we live in now, the Western world that we live in now, which is in fact times are changing, and the feminine qualities, I mean, people are doing yoga, meditation, that's all tapping into that sort of divine feminine. So it's the watery world, it's the underneath world, the emotions, the like really being in tune to yourself and to the universe, and nurturing, compassion, nurturing, and that is for yourself as well. There's a big thing here around I'm just being shown depression. You can go, what is that? It's like you can go overly into the divine feminine as well as unaligned. So unaligned divine feminine is, yes, overly I say overly emotional, but a depression kind of feeling, overwhelm, and or like always living in the spiritual worlds, kind of in another world, and not really being grounded in this world and with this Mother Earth. So there's unaligned, I'm not going to talk about into it now, but there's all sorts of unalignment with the divine feminine as well. Then the divine masculine is all about the grounded action, is compassionate leadership, is like being the leader who provides systems for the good of all, and is a quiet power, like that inner power that we're talking about power in our group today, actually. Like that inner power, it's a soft power, but it's courageous, and it will take risks, and it will walking into the unknown. You will, if you're called, you will walk into the unknown, and there's an element of trusting, and actually when you have the masculine and the feminine together, like interwoven in your body, say up through your body, through your chakras, you will have that beautiful balance of the intuition leading, which is on my left side. On the left side is where I receive, so I have quite regularly, well, I know they're always there, I have a line of spirits on my left hand side, and they are waiting to either rebirth, so they move through me up to Chris, so sort of stuck spirits, or they are loved ones of people that are being drawn to us and will come into raise, will be part of our reconnection experiences, but I don't open the door, like it's firmly closed until at such time I am shown that I need to open it, or I'm invited to open it, and in the right situation. It's very controlled. Chris is a great gatekeeper, and our guides, like combined guides, are always there. I have put them in place, and I regularly repair and cleanse and put that back protection in place. So that's a kind of perfect way of the masculine and the feminine working together within me, in that I have this left side which receives, and I'm continually connected with spirit, but I also know when to close the door, when to focus on something else, and take steps in my life, like doing these films, which will further and progress my life and my soul growth. So there's a delicate balance, really. And then obviously if you go over the divine masculine into the unaligned masculine, that has really come up for us this week. So we had one day where we go outside, and we are open ourselves to receive whatever the universe wants to give us. Now that could be like going for a walk and receiving from like whatever you see on your walk. That could even be the wind in your face, which way the direction the wind is coming for you. Could be the animals that you see, could be the small little bits of nature that you notice, like even like a fern unfurling or something like that. But also it can be just going to a coffee shop, it could be having conversations with friends. This is when spirit are able to drop things in for you, and it's like being able to, the feminine side is the receiving of it, and then the masculine is often the sometimes the thought process of weaving things together. But anyway, my week has been full of unaligned masculine energies. It's been so obvious, and I wonder, I think this is in the collective. So for example, I've got a whole list here because I wrote them all down. It was just ridiculous in one day. I'll give you so we went out for lunch. I went out for lunch, and behind my husband, there was a couple, and while my husband had gone to the loo, this man started berating his companion. It wasn't a wife, it was just a friend, I think, because she had been to the doctors a lot about a specific problem, and it hadn't been cleared, it hadn't worked. So she'd gone down an alternative route, which was the Chinese medicine. And this companion, they were both in their 70s, I would say, so of that age, and he was absolutely trashing the fact that she'd gone to this Chinese I don't know if it was acupuncture, but it was certainly like Chinese medicine, and he absolutely, it was so embarrassing, he dismissed it totally, like didn't even give her a chance to explain, or a chance to, he's totally closed mind to that option. And he really was, he called it like wishy-washy, and why do you bother with that, and totally disrespecting her and her choices and her story. And that to me is completely unaligned masculine. Also, yeah, just people, children, male children in my family, and adults, totally like so much what am I going to say, like anger almost, and violence, not towards me, but just things that were coming on in and around my family, and just very strong energies, that are very forceful energies, that completely were out of order. And even my daughter brought home a little book of Psalms, and they obviously had an assembly at school, and they had offered this book, this little psalm book, and she just took it because it was free and it was being offered. So anyway, it appeared down in our kitchen, and I thought, oh, what's this? And I just randomly opened a page, because that's what I do with books. I will often, if I need guidance on something, I will scan my books. I have a book obsession, totally. And I will scan my shelves all over the house, and a book will come into view, and then I will just randomly open a page, and there will always be a message within those pages. So if not on the first one, sort of by the time you've read a bit, it will be like, oh, okay, thank you. Anyway, it opened up, my random page opened up at Psalm 55. And for those of you who don't know about Psalm 55, because I didn't either, it's all about a David, and he has been what's happened to him? His friends who he trusted, I don't know if it's friend or friends who he had trusted, he trusted the wrong people, because they what's the word I'm looking for, they went against him, turned against him, backstabbing, all of that, and caused him, he's fearing for his life in the psalm, and he's grieving, he's angry, he's wanting vengeance, he's calling on God for vengeance against these people who have wronged him. And it's a really painful read, as he's completely berating. And you see, the thing is that when I was reading it, I didn't think that I didn't think he felt he had any responsibility for what had happened to him. Whereas I, from my point of view now, would see that what his betrayal, his friend's betrayal, and the situation that he was in was actually a lesson for him, and it was actually, he was responsible ultimately for what was happening to him. So it was a complete lack of feminine intuition or wider perspective. And anyway, in the end, it ends up with him going, right, well, I'm going to surrender this to God. I'm going to trust God to sort this out for me and to keep me safe and to sort of sort the situation out. And it surprised me so much that I opened at this random page, because I normally, when I open things, it's love and it's connected with forgiveness or understanding, or it's something that I can kind of pass on to the raised members, as well as take it on board myself. So this was really sort of, oh my goodness. But having talked to people in the group and talking to you now, it became apparent that there are things in our lives that as a collective, I believe, certainly in the Western world, we have a masculine sort of culture, still overly masculine, unaligned masculine. It's not aligned masculine, because aligned masculine is, yeah, the thoughtful leader, the compassionate leader, the grounded action, the thought, taking care of the whole pride, the tribe, the team, and leading strongly and courageously. And I don't see much evidence of that. And yeah, so talking to the group, it was we have as a collective this unaligned sort of masculine, and it can be fearful, and it can be it's destructive, and it's fear inducing, and it's like very the fear ripples through the collective. And there are set things like this. The man that was having the conversation, well, no, he wasn't having a conversation at all with this woman. He was just stating his principles and his facts as he knew him, his reality, and trying to force it on somebody else. And that sort of collective idea about, say, if we're going to talk about grieving, spiritual curiosity, like that's still so closed down. And it takes small groups like Ray's, and many other groups that I know that I'm beginning to meet people through, who like discuss alternative ways of grieving, of spirit connection, of having this connection after a physical death that continues, a voice, beginning to voice more and more and show our light, of this alternative view to the collective sort of fear and way of, like, I'm sorry for your loss. Physical death still means in our Western culture, generally, that that's it, they've gone. You can't do anything, they can't do anything to help you, and you can't do anything to help them. And that's how where I was and Chris was, sort of 20 years ago. And now we've come together. It's taken a long time, healing and transforming, a lot of understanding, a lot of forgiveness, not only between ourselves but for his killers. Although I do feel, I was talking about this with someone in the group this morning, blame and anger is a very unaligned masculine trait as well, and it holds us so much. I can feel it in my heart. It like holds our heart like that. It stops all the love flowing, and a lot of the balanced way of looking at it and the new perspective that you can gain, which is what we've gained, is that actually the people who were ultimately, it's a bit like the Psalm 55, you're kind of blaming it on somebody else. My rage at Chris, at everything about him going missing, at the guys who were his kind of downfall in the end. They weren't actually, they obviously were to blame, but when you look at it from a higher perspective, from love and understanding and forgiveness, they all played their part in the bigger role. Now we've kind of got to the, I'm going to say that the end, the conclusion of our story in so far, because there's still things that are going to be found, but for now, so far, I can see, and Chris, obviously from his perspective, he's now not earthbound and is now ascended, so he can move time, space, wherever, and be with whoever he needs to be and wherever he needs to be. But he oh, I've lost it again. This is really unusual. Normally I can just flow. I'm being distracted by something. Maybe it's just the group. We're all so entwined at the moment. I can feel what's going on with everybody. Yes, so the forgiveness, yes. So I could see the bigger plan. Like we can look back now at everything that happened and see it as a bigger plan, and that it was all the plan, the contracts that Chris had with these. It was actually one particular person, but there was a group in the end. Like they were all playing their part in Chris's physical life and his death and his rebirth as well, to what we are doing now. If Chris had been found, like if his body had been found in Africa, that would have been kind of it for this story. He would have been, you know, he was 27, he was had his whole life ahead of him. He was kind of, we're going to say, cut down in Africa. He never got the chance to tell his story. He was just like very stupid. if we look at it, if he'd been found, like stupid for going on a solo expedition through Africa, you just on foot or with a donkey, and then he wanted to get to the river Niger, Bamako in Mali, and then he was going to go on a dugout canoe. Like he was following in the footsteps of an explorer called Mungo Park, and Chris was walking in the footsteps like 200 years after Mungo had done the journey. So he wanted to see how things have changed, and basically do the same journey. But he never got to like, yeah, if he'd been found at the time, none of this that we do now would have happened. We'd have just sort of repatriated him home. He'd be in a grave, and that would have been it. It would have been it. But the fact that we didn't find him, the fact that I went on a journey to find him, you know, 13 years after, that I experienced a spiritual awakening. This was all part of my life plan. I mean, before this, I was writing, I have books published about the history of animal and human history, the history of animal human relationship, sorry. God. And then Chris goes missing and my life is blown up, and I completely changed track, and have this spiritual awakening a lot later on. So I was heavily in grief. I was in like the chronic grief disorder, what they would label it now. Couldn't find our way through this grief, couldn't even grieve because we were in this limbo of Chris being missing. And if I hadn't walked where I needed to walk, where I was being shown, and I was in a very so I was in agriculture as well. I was in always in a very male orientated industry or business. And I had my feminine intuition, and I would always get signs and signals and be like, oh right, I'm going to follow that. So I was balanced actually before Chris went missing, but then life just sort of went dead, and I died along with him, really. We didn't know he was dead, obviously, because you have a missing person and you hope they're still alive, but I experienced a death in life. And it was only, and I could have carried on like that. I got married, had children, and we started a different business, actually, my husband and I, with writing ghostwriting autobiographies for people so that they wouldn't lose their stories, because in kind of inspired by Chris, because we felt we had lost all his stories and we could never connect with him again. It was like too late to ask any questions. So yes, that's what my husband and we went in designing books and writing the books for people. And that was going to be how it was. But then spirit started knocking on the door, and and I'd actually started to write with people who were spiritual. They had come towards me to write books. So I started to be opened up to the spiritual world, and it scared me. And I was like, oh, I'm not sure I even want to go into these people's houses, but these were the people that were coming towards me. And if you're watching this film as well, this will be the same kind of thing. I got gently introduced to spirit, and kind of was like, oh, okay, this isn't scary, this is okay. And it was a gradual awakening in me of the divine feminine and the divine masculine, because when Chris was missing, and certainly the year that I was looking for him online, I was absolutely all over the place, totally unaligned. I wasn't listening to my own intuition. I was just searching. I was just like crashing on. I was going to find Chris, and it didn't matter what came in my way, obstacles, I just red herrings, wild goose chases. I did them all. I was totally unbalanced. So I'd gone from like a real death in sort of life, and just kind of going through life, coping with life, to that unaligned masculine, just crashing through, disregarding what everybody said to me, my family included. So I was probably that came through so much. And I think probably that is the collective way. If you're searching for something, if you're maybe you're wanting to reconnect with loved ones, and you're searching for signs, you're like crying out, I want to find you, I need to find you, come and help me. That doesn't work. And you need to stop, and you need to take a step back. and I had to learn it, and I crashed into the brick wall, and I was ill, and overwhelmed, burnt out, everything. And to find Chris, I actually had to step back, and I had to go within, and I had to refine my balance, and I had to learn to trust my intuition. I had to trust myself. I had to surrender, and I had to take aligned action, and I had to be grounded, and I had to be courageous, totally different from how I had been. So yeah, it's a real so sometimes in fact, I never know where these films are going, but I think we're coming to the point now where I say that's the point of this talk, and thank you for listening, because it is, if you're in that position where you feel unaligned, where you're charging through and you're disregarding your inner knowing, and have just switched off from nature, from yourself, from spirit, from everything, just stop, because you need to get balance. Nothing is going to flow in your life until you find the balance in yourself. And actually, this was a question that we had this week, which I'm just reminded of, and let me just share it here. What decision can you make right now to help your life flow forwards? Okay, maybe you want to write that down. What decision can I make right now to help my life flow forwards? That was a question we had this week. And some of the answers were about recognizing how angry people were with situations involving their loved one's death, and the sort of situations around that, how angry they were, how they were holding on to like they couldn't forgive. There was a real sort of tunneled vision about the situation that wasn't helping them. There was, what else did we have? Just this recognition as well that what they were feeling was also what their loved ones in spirit were feeling. So there was a intertwining of energies that Chris and I had as well, and we have to separate our energies. So recognize what energy is, so in our case with Chris and myself, what energy are you feeling that isn't yours, that is from your loved one, and what energy is yours. And something also that came up was the connection between my son, so Christian's nephew, and Christian, and how interconnected they are. So it's almost, it's apart from the connection that I have with Chris, which is like totally like titanium, we describe it as, he also has this connection with my son, who he never met. Actually, Chris never met in the physical, never met my husband or my children. He sent them to me. He certainly the plan was that my family would come and give me that sort of stability and that balance in the physical, and then I would be able to support myself and then Chris. So there's a plan here, and it's so intricate, the plan. And I can only see it with hindsight when I look back down the line, in a linear sort of time way, of how everything has been so well planned, and how everyone has come in to raise into this reconnection experience we're doing at the moment. The synchronicities and the people and the spirit working with the physical is incredible. The intricacy and the planning that has gone ahead. So I think the decisions that you can make to help your life flow forwards is all about, so on the divine feminine side, it's recognizing what emotions that you have that are frozen, that are swirling there, that you're experiencing them. They're coming out in all sorts of areas of your life, but there's not an acknowledgement that they are affecting your life. So the anger is a big thing. Anger, rage at the situation, especially if you've had a suicide, or there's someone to blame for your loved one's death. That is somewhere you really need to be looking at. And also there's an element of trusting the process, trusting that this is all part of a wider plan. And you might hear me say that and think, I can't believe there was a bigger plan to this. I mean, we have mothers in our raise experience at the moment, who have whose children, one very young child, and another lady who has a sort of in his 20s who transitioned, and even within the first, like, we're on day 5 now, their perspective they have is totally different, and their loved ones, their children, are bringing them signs, and they are working together with their children. I don't believe that any grief or any loss, and that's going to come out double negative there, like, I believe every loss, physical loss, can be healed and transformed, and that is only possible from our point of view through a reconnection with spirit. So the spirit and the physical working together to heal and transform. Trusting, so yes, divine feminine is like what's really going on underneath. What are we not looking at? What do we need to look at? Like, yeah, the decision that you make right now to help your life flow forward, to unfreeze things, to allow the love to be free now, to allow the heart to do its job, the power of love to do its job. And a lot of that is surrendering, that's trusting, all of the feminine, like using your intuition, opening up to receiving, not being scared of the unknown. And then the masculine on that side is like leading yourself. Like, you have control, you have self-will, you have control, you decide what your life is going to be. You can either stay, this is not Hannah speaking here, this is coming from somewhere else, because I get serious and it sounds it's not like how I would normally speak. But yeah, you have a decision, and your loved ones in spirit, if there's been a difficult death, a sudden death, death at the hands of another, or self-inflicted death, it's highly likely that they will be wanting to heal themselves and release themselves, as well as for you to do it too. So I guess the decision is to allow that reconnection to happen, and to take care of yourself, and to find balance within yourself, because without balance in yourself, as I've said before, you can't help those in spirit. And you will find often the way, sorry, there was a goal then. Often if you're there's so many distractions today, so many distractions, and I guess that's part of I'm being shown now, that's part of where we are. I mean, we're in, well, we know November the 25th 2022, and we are a month away from Christmas, and all this distraction is going on. We've just had Thanksgiving yesterday. Several of our members are in America, so we had Thanksgiving. And do you know what, from them last year not being able to do Thanksgiving, to being in grief, to being numb, to being whatever, and these are the two with the children, they've literally this year, yesterday, it was like completely different for them. They felt their loved ones' presence around, they were celebrating, they were yeah, totally different. And that's the unfreezing and the reconnection that happens. So yeah, it's almost like I certainly, my decision when I hit the rock bottom, my decision had to be to look after myself, and to surrender to a higher power than myself, because I couldn't find Chris, and I had to surrender and stop the world, all those distractions, all those, yeah, Christmas, that's what we're talking about, Thanksgiving, Christmas, all the distractions, all the consumerism, all the, like, you must do this, you must do that, all these thoughts that, oh God, to have a perfect Christmas we need to do all of this, and actually let's just get back to what's really important, and that is balance, and having a sense of control, and like being in command of yourself, like leading yourself. And for me, yeah, the surrender of everything to a higher power, and a stepping back, and a rebalancing of myself, and that was the spiritual awakening. And I was ready for it, and it might be that you, if you're watching this film, are ready for that rebalancing of the support to come in. Obviously Chris and I've been through this all. I haven't found anything in the last 4 years that Chris and I haven't, that other people have experienced, that Chris and I haven't experienced, like I don't like the word expert, but the expertise that we have built up. there's no situations that we come into contact with that we haven't experienced. So we have the lessons that we've learned and just telling our story so people don't feel alone. Yeah, so if you want to make a decision to help your life flow, come into Raise. Come and join one of our reconnection experiences. Come and find yourself again. Come and experience a rebirth of yourself. And I'm sure your loved ones in spirit, if it's the path they are ready for as well, and they feel you are ready for, they will lead you into Raise and will lead you at the right time into a reconnection experience, whether you're watching, whenever you're watching this. But yes, it's very easy to get distracted and to find all sorts of things in life that will lead you away from actually what you need to be doing, like the one decision that will help your life flow in the right direction, or the direction that you the aligned direction to you, so that it's real strong in my heart. You'll know if our story is meant for you. You will know, you'll feel it in your heart, you'll be drawn. You can't be, and either you distract yourself. Funnily enough, there's somebody in this reconnection experience who found us a year ago. It was actually on Instagram, and she kind of made contact with us and came onto our mailing list, and then was silent and sort of got scared. I think she said she kind of got fearful or got scared off, and yeah, has now come back to us. I think she saw another film or something, and it's like, right, this is the right time. And she's come in, and her life purpose and the work which she is here to do is not what she's doing currently in her work, and this is where she's being led into this work. So she is having her own sort of remembering. Spirits are coming to her already, and I can obviously help her with that, because that's what she's here for. That is her life purpose, to be working with spirit, to be rebirthing, to be healing, to be supporting. So yeah, she's come at the right time for her. And so everyone who comes into the reconnection experience, they're for different, they come with different situations, but overall, whichever reconnection experience you come into, you will be with the right people. There'll be the theme of it will be you'll be interconnected with who you do the circle with. You'll find out all the interwoven connections between you as the 17 days carry on. And yeah, it's absolutely thrilling. I love it. The first week, like we've done this week, is people getting to know each other, people starting to connect, to opening themselves up to spirit in a safe way. We do it all safely. And it's just that gradual, the signs start coming, the synchronicities really start flowing, and then we learn from each other. Everyone sort of shares their stories and shares what's happening to them, and people don't feel alone, because you can't talk about this often with family or friends. These sort of supernatural experiences, we'd call it. But this is all perfectly normal, and this is what we want to get across to people, that this is how life should be. We should be flowing in our lives. We should be receiving and support from spirit. Our loved ones are still there. They're just energetically alive rather than physically alive. That's the purpose of everything that Chris and I speak about. It's a reconnection. It's a coming together, it's a remembering, it's love, it's light, and it's we all work together within Raise to shine out, so that people in their darkness, and I was in the darkness, Chris was in his darkness, but we saw people standing up and talking about this, and we gravitated towards them, and then we learned ourselves how to interact, how to reconnect, and how to let the love flow again. And then the power of love, what it can do, can absolutely move mountains and make the impossible happen. Miracles happen. Yeah. So what decision can you make right now to help your life flow forwards? Come into Raise. Come and join us in a reconnection experience. Come and make that decision to connect with yourself, connect with spirit, connect with the all that is, and the power of love, essentially. Okay, I'll see you again next week. Yeah, raisewithchrisandhan.digital is the website. There's a landing page, and you can join for free. The reconnection experiences, there is a charge for that because we work really hard. But it's not, it's an affordable, it's affordable. We want to make it as affordable for everybody so that that isn't a barrier. We're not going to put barriers up for people to join us in the reconnection experiences. Yeah, so hopefully we'll meet you soon, and I'm sure your loved ones and guides will be making everything just come together. You'll just go, oh, of course I'm supposed to be there. Okay, lots of love, and we'll see you soon. Bye bye.